and I hope you can hear. Okay. Okay. So any additions to the agenda?
We received that letter from Donna about fencing. We're going to put that off till December.
Yeah,
It just came about a half an hour ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
the previous emails, but we can either put that in as an agenda item, or we can put it in as a correspondence and deal with that at the next meeting if you want. It's up to you guys. And then you've had the emails from the subdivision developer, JCM, and that will be 9.8 on the agenda. And that's JCM, which is the Buffalo Lake Ranch Estates, his request to provide snow removal services for those two segments of road. And then Leanne is gonna call in, zoom in and give her perspective on that, because at the time, so.
Okay.
And that's the two items.
Okay, where
Where do you guys want to put the discussion over the letter for the tax reduction for the two Buffalo Lake Estates Phase 2 resident request, because they haven't been getting municipal services and they're still paying the taxes, so like.
well, probably, I
Yeah,
think probably
yeah.
we should talk about that in camera, maybe,
Okay.
Dean?
I agree.
And then we can delve more into it and deal with it at the next council meeting. That's what her expectation is anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
good.
Okay.
Hi, Lori.
No, it'll be in camera.
That'll be 11.
Okay,
That'll be 11.
just,
That'll be 11.2 in camera. Okay.
Was it on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in camera.
Okay, who wants to move the agenda as amended? Jump up all
I
at
will.
once.
Okay.
okay, so we'll move on to minutes, minutes of the regular council meeting. So that was on October 12th. I didn't have anything that was really outstanding there. Ed, did you have, or Bob?
I wasn't at that meeting,
Oh,
so do I
that's
vote
right.
on this?
No, because you weren't inducted yet, so you're okay.
Right.
Ed, did you have anything on that meeting?
Oh, I never had anything.
Okay, so the second one is the organizational meeting that we had on October 26th, and then that's where we appointed the first of all, what we did was have Bob take oath of office. So he was officially sworn in then. And I guess what the public should know is one of the most important things is the moving of the regular meetings, because administration had meetings for Roshan Sands, and then right away the other one the next morning for White Sands. So we made allowances to move the meeting to the third Wednesdays of the month. So Aaron, can we put out some good advertising on that?
Sure will.
So people know to play, go in, come into Zoom.
Get the site to Facebook and yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I can't hear you, but I guess you're gonna
I
do it.
will,
Okay,
I'll do, yeah, I'll put on the, change on the website, put on Facebook, all that stuff.
okay, thank you. So then, Ed, do you have anything up to item number 18?
No, I didn't.
Okay, and Bob, you're okay with everything there?
Yes, I was okay with it.
Okay, so there was some confusion on the chart on item 18 on committee and board appointments. So we should probably try and correct that so we can get it out properly. So the boards and committees, there was Buffalo Lake International Development Committee. So that's Bob Huff, and then alternate was myself. And then the South Shore APP was Bob Huff, and then myself as an alternate. And the Buffalo Lake management team, it was myself and then Bob Huff as alternate. And then the Housing Authority is where it changed from the printout that we got. So Housing Authority was Ed, and the alternate is Lauren. And the fire advisory would be Bob Huff and alternate Lauren. The EMS or ambulance is Lauren. And then the alternate is Ed Waugh. And the Waste Management Authority was Ed. And the alternate was myself. And Shirley McClellan Water Commission was myself. And then Ed Waugh as alternate. And the rest of them were all full council. So the White Sands Emergency Committee, the White Sands Municipal Planning, Parkland Community Planning Service Annual, White Sands Emergency Management Committee. So both emergency groups and as well as the rest of them. And I think that's about it. What do you, Ed and Bob, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with it.
Yes, I agree with it.
Okay. So if we can just have that redone and then sent out. And then also, are you going to let the folks know that send out the invitations? Dean?
Yes, the letters will be going out en masse.
Okay. And just for your information too, the county council meeting has been canceled and put ahead a week, so it's not happening today as well. Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, we gotta go. So we need approval for them. 2 sets of minutes, as well as the errors and omissions that were done. So we need a motion.
Ed, do you want a motion on the October 12th one? And I'll stay out of it and I can motion on the 26th.
Okay, sounds good, Bob.
So I would motion that approval of the organizational minutes of October 26th as amended with the changes to the committee memberships.
Okay, thank you. Now, for delegations, we have Lori Tate, and she's our gal has been taking care of the village for 22 or 23 years as far as grants and also finances. And Lori, we really appreciate that report you put together. It's very clear. And it's also, I do have some notes throughout it that I could probably leave to the end. It's just explaining some things, or did you want me to do it as we go along?
I'll maybe kind of go through that report a little bit, if that's what you would like, and just talk about the grant so that everybody gets a feel for what's out there and what we have in our bank account, and what we have available to us. And then,
Yes, that would be appreciated. And then I just have some notes on some past history and what we have spent some of them items on.
right.
So that might be able to help the public as well.
Could I just ask one quick question first? Now, Lori, what is your position? Are you work for us or the government, or I'm new to council, so could you explain to me your role here with the grants?
Okay, I worked for the town of Stettler, who took care of the administration of White Sands for quite a few years. I've retired from the town, but I did all the grant reporting and stuff like that for White Sands for quite a few years. And I'm helping now, I'm helping the combined, for both Roshan Sands and White Sands, I'm helping them just kind of keep track of financial things and making sure that we're ready, and helping you do your year ends and things like that at this point in time. So I'm just kind of a part-time temporary financial assistant is what I'm doing for you now. So I do have the background on the what has happened with the grants in the past, because I did work with White Sands for a long time. So just been a couple of years that I've had a skip in here. That's why I'm probably rattling on. haven't
No, thank you very much. No, that was good. I just didn't know
where I
your
was.
position, so I just wanted to be clear, and that's great. Thank you. That was good information.
Okay. Can you roll this report onto the screen at all? I just kind of wanted to go over what grants are out there and what we have sitting in our financial, in our bank account already. So MSI kind of started in 2007. They
What that is?
and municipal sustainability is what it's called. It's for the purchase of capital assets that we typically own. We can also have a regional aspect to it. So if you're doing something with Shirley McClellan or with the county, maybe there's an opportunity to also do regional projects. The expected life of these assets that we would buy are typically more than one. So it'll cover things like roadways, trails, parking lots, water, wastewater, storm, big equipment replacement, buildings, parks and recs, so, playground equipment and those kind of things. So it has a very wide ranging aspect of what it will cover. And if you kind of look on the project expense thing, you can see we've spent it in the past on boat launch and sweeper purchases, dump trailers, there's all kinds of things there. So if you roll down to the second page, there. So this is more recent. We did some drainage projects, swale, fire guard access, signages for when we replaced all the signs in the village for emergency purposes. So that gives you an idea of what we've spent the money on. So when we look at, there's a column called MSI received. So that's the money that they've sent us just on kind of a yearly basis. They were sending us the funds and expecting us to use it. Unfortunately, we got into that couple of years there where we were trying to find projects, and we were kind of saving up for the Shirley McClellan, the truck fill station. It ended up that funding was different, so we didn't need all big funds saved there. So you can see we received $955,848. We were eligible for $1,443,353. We also have to apply interest every year. We usually typically give whatever interest our bank account is getting. We apply that interest. So we've allocated interest of 38,537 over the years. And we've expended so far 834,128. So that kind of leaves us with 703,020 eligible still. And only about $160,000 in our bank account. So we've received 955, we've only spent 834, so that leaves us about $160,000 in our bank account, but we still have it available that we can apply for grant funding. So I think that is kind of attached to what council does in their long-term strategic plan, their 5-year capital budget and those kind of things. So also this year, and I forgot to put the 22 expenditures to date on there. So sorry about that, but we've did a little bit of rental work for the office, not rental work, I guess, getting this video conferencing and stuff set up for about $20,000. So we've spent a little bit of money so far this year already, but not any big projects. So that kind of explains a little bit about where White Sands is with their MSI grant. Is there any questions?
Well, the other thing that has come up in the talking with the municipal affairs, that they stopped sending out the grants because they used to send cash to municipalities. But about 2015, they stopped sending cash. So all the money here is accumulated in the municipal treasury account for us to apply for. But unless we have eligible projects, there's a huge chunk of the money, I think it was 290-some-thousand that was going to be clawed back on December 2023 if it's not spent. And then we also have unspent funds, which Laura's going to go through, that we received, but we haven't allocated them or provided reporting to where we've spent. So they're sitting in our bank account unspent. So we do have this money that must be spent. The MSI capital grant is going away next year. And then we have other programs that have been canceled, but we still have funds in those programs. So they haven't clawed them back yet, but we still have monies available to us in the former gas tax fund that they've changed the name of to Canadian Community Building Fund, I think. And that money is to go towards buildings, tennis courts, facilities, anything that we need it for. The gas tax fund used to be geared more towards road and road maintenance, but now they open it up so you can apply for like tennis courts and community facilities and things like that. So, and we do have some money that was unspent in the Shirley McClellan program, but we've been paying annual payments to the Shirley McClellan fund, so we still have the original capital that was set aside sitting in that fund on our monthly financial statements. So
Yeah, and I
So Lori,
think,
this is Bob. A quick question. So this has to be spent on stuff, like it can't be spent on hiring a staff person to do a certain chore?
there's an operations portion of it that is called MSI operating, which we typically get about $12,000 a year, which is meant for computers and staff stuff. So we can spend that on operating type. And like computers technically aren't capital items because they expire after 2 or 3 years. They have to start replacing stuff. Whereas hard assets like tractors and buildings and other road and other, that's considered a capital. So the money that's being clawed back for the most part of the program that's being canceled is the MSI capital program. And they'll have to come up with some other program, but we need to, as a council, pick a project or projects that we want to do so that we can spend the funds so we don't lose it. So.
and the total on that, it's 2023 December, and they said it's around $300,000, but if you really look at it, it should be more than that, so that we're not getting into this predicament. And what really started it is exactly what Lori said, is we got that $462,000 check from the Shirley McClellan Water Commission when we did the truck fill, and we'd been saving for it, and also the MSI was sitting there. So it's kind of biting us in the ass, but it's going to have to be done. Otherwise, you can't imagine a community our size not using grant money. Usually they're grasping at grant money, and we're kind of in the opposite.
So what projects do we have that we think we can use this on here? I'm the first one that comes to mind is the boat launch.
Yes, I think, Bob, that's a good thing, except the timeline on that might not be a good thing. I know Dean has some information on, did some comparison to repairing the boat launch rather than making a new boat launch that would have to be engineered and everything up to specs with the provincial government. And I think, Dean, wasn't it around 500,000 or 600,000, that one you checked?
Yeah, if we were to build a boat launch, we'd have to do it regionally because they won't allow small boat launches anymore. So we can repair our existing one and we can replace some stones and stuff, but and make it serviceable. But to do a large one, the average cost for a regional boat launch is between 500,000 and 600,000. So for us as a community to do that ourselves, it would not make sense. Because the emergency service is applying for a large federal and provincial grant to put a emergency boat launch in the region. And that money is most likely going to go for improving the boat launch and dock system. And it'll probably go in the most logical place, which would be, it'll be Roshan Sands Bay. And that's the RCMP and the bylaw enforcement, and whoever else needs access to that boat launch and dock system. So we probably won't be eligible for that, and they probably won't, the county, unless we deal with the county, they won't put any application in with us to do a regional boat launch at White Sands. So we're basically fixing it up on our own, and some of the money may be eligible for that, for if we just do repair, as opposed to trying to build a new boat launch to the standards of today, which has to be engineered. So.
And I
Okay.
think, Bob, the other thoughts that have been floating around, of course, would be putting together an office for White Sands for administration. And
That's a good one.
I know that the renovations, when we applied for the renovations to the old shop, we had a hell of a time to even get someone to bid on it. And so we had one at 311,000 and one at 310,000, and we had it budgeted around 150,000. So it was rather a surprise, but still, and then Ed brought the fact up that maybe we can look at an RTM unit to be moved into the village. And Dean looked into that, and there is options there. So that's one big option that would probably, at least in looking at things, would be after you put the services in and the foundation and everything else, that'd be well over 300,000 for sure.
So getting back to the office, when we were going to renovate the shop, so we had an architect come in and then put it out for tender. Did we ever kind of just look at like some like local contractors and stuff like that? You know, I know there's a number, and just doing it rather, because I know it was sort of big firms out of like Red Deer and stuff that bid on it.
Yes, but we also, Bob, we also sent letters to local contractors as well. I think there was 8 of them, and there was no interest because they're just running. They're so busy.
Yeah.
And I think probably the other part of the budget overage on that was, of course, supplies. And, you know, it was just kind of it was disappointing, that's for sure.
I wonder if the local guys have slowed down a little bit with the rise in interest rates.
I don't think so. From what I've been talking to contractors, like there's a big project in town for seniors housing, you know, that are personally bought. There's that, and then there's a lot of people that are building, and it's just steaming right along. It doesn't seem like it's slowed down. I
Okay,
mean, I
fair
guess
enough.
we could check, but when we put that ad out for the province throughout the provincial mechanism, the architects did, and then also we sent letters to contractors around, and out of all them, we just got 2 bids.
Wow,
Like,
crazy.
It was unbelievable.
So another project that council may want to consider going forward, we had discussions of putting in wet wells for hydrants. So basically, they would be wells that we drilled that would have a holding tank next to them, or some kind of system, so that we can have hydrants for, if we do need a fire, they would basically draw out of the existing sloughs, ponds, and whatever. We'd have to build an engineered wet well. So those were an option, and they run anywhere from 50 to 100,000 for an engineered wet well, and we have to have so many placed around the community to make it a difference in long-term insurance. So that's one option. The other option is to put main lines in for a trickle system for a water system. So we'd have to put a holding tank next to the Shirley McClellan tank that would be capable of running a pump, multiple pumps, and a trickle system, so that people would be able to tie in eventually. So if we did, we'd have to select areas where we can directionally drill main lines into the community and put some hydrants in that way. It wouldn't be for, you know, to have the capability of fighting a big fire or anything, but the fact that the hydrants were in would make a difference. And then it gives the individual residents an option if they want to tie in, especially year-round residents. If they want to tie into the Stettler water supply, they would be able to tie in. And then they would be doing it as a pay per service. They would have to pay to tie in their own line, and then there would be a little offsite fee. But that would be another option. There's, you know, other things to spend money on that but we would also have to stack grants with the Water for Life program to do that. So.
Yeah, and then, you know, there is pros and cons to that as well. Other communities have put sewer line in at the same time as the water line. But we're in the predicament too, is that we haven't anywhere put pipe the sewer to. So it'd have to be really looked at and studied, so that if we're going to do them wet wells, that they're, like Dean said, in strategic places, because it really has to be looked after. There was also talk of an addition onto the hall. So that's another thing. I think probably maybe what we can do, if you folks are okay with it, is do some rough research and have a town hall meeting with the public and explain what we found out, and then maybe get some direction from that. I don't know. But we don't have an opportunity of time. That's a problem.
Yeah,
I think, Lauren, number one, now that we've got council established, that we should get together here ASAP and get our wish list back in order again and talk about each individual item a lot more.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ed, because this
I mean, we could sit here and talk about this all day long, taking up time, but we gotta get serious about this.
yeah, so what basically it would do is our old strategic plan would have to be changed, and that's a planning mechanism, and then we can go from there.
And council has to realize that we have to, in order to get secure contractors for any job you take on, you have to have the tenders out by end of January, February, in order to secure the contractors to start in May, June, and July. Because they are already all booked up by the time you get to May. They don't have, they're not even gonna bid on any jobs, especially small jobs like ours, because they are bidding on the bigger government jobs. And even if you go with the local guys, if you don't have everything lined up for them, it takes them 3 months and up to get the supplies and the materials, even to build a stick-built home with all the flashing and windows and everything like that. So whatever you do, whether it's a hall expansion or community hall, that all has to be tendered out well in advance, because it's a 5 to 6 month window for them before they can actually start. And if we do a dock, we have a very restrictive on the boat launch. We cannot go in the water whatsoever from January 1st to July, the end of July, because of the fishery regulation. So it really hampers us. Our window for work on the boat launch is basically mid-July, which we don't necessarily want to do, to December 1st, before it freezes solid. So we're limited in the amount of what we can do in that area too, by the timing. So.
Yeah, and that's a very valid point too, because last time we did the boat launch in 2010, I think it was 2011. We put the pads in on November 10th, and that's the only way we could get her done. And it took 1.5 years to get permission and licensing from the province and the feds. So I don't know.
Do we have approval to go ahead with it now, Dean?
No,
We don't, so we're still waiting on approval.
we're still waiting on a plan, because we don't have a.
We have to have a plan before we can submit that.
Even
plan.
if we're doing a repair, we still have to have a plan, and that has to be sent in by someone who's either the professional in that area or the actual engineer.
Okay, as long as everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And those questions won't have to come up.
Yeah, we can't just go in and fix it. I would love to do that, like the old fashioned way, just go in and fix it, then beg for forgiveness. They won't let us do that now, especially we're under a microscope with the recreation lease right now. So they're very sensitive to anything we do.
So can we send out something, send out sort of a letter to our residents asking for ideas? If we write up some kind of a letter explaining the situation fairly soon, and then we can maybe get together as a council as soon as possible after that to maybe come up with some wish list stuff.
Well, I think, Bob, council should come up with their own wish list first and then.
Oh,
present it
oh.
to the public.
Okay,
Because if we send out a letter asking the public what they want to do, that's just gonna delay the whole process a lot longer. And we gotta get on this right away.
sure. Okay, fair enough.
That's my way of thinking anyway. I don't know.
I tend to agree with you, Ed, because I think if we get together and then do like a mini strategic plan and then go to the public and see, but it's going to have to be done before Christmas, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I think you're right that we could talk about this all day and then not get anywhere. So maybe that's what we'll do, is do is, Dean, would you call it just a new strategic plan or just an amendment, or how would we go about that?
Yeah, well, since our next council meeting is December 21st, what we need to do is between now and then we need to have a Zoom call and have it's called committee of the whole meeting. So it's myself, whoever council wants to invite, and amongst the group, and then council, and we sit down and discuss all options and put the list together. Plus, we have to go through our strategic plan, we have to go through our long-term budget. And then this year, because they changed the act, we have to have a basic operating budget approved by December 31st. So essentially, you can approve this year's budget for next year. And then the capital side, you can decide on later, and you can finalize your budget in March. But that all has to be discussed and then approved at the next council meeting, or at least something has to be brought forward at the next meeting.
Well, we got a lot of work to do. When are you guys going home?
Next
I'm home in
month,
a week. I'm home on the 18th.
I'm home on the end of the month,
So,
and it's unfortunate, but I don't know, this was planned for over a year, so. I think probably that's a good plan. We can put in order, and even if it is before I get home, we can always do Zoom, easy enough.
yeah,
And we can go from there, or else if you want to just wait till the very first part of December, that's possible as well.
yeah. So not only do we have the 700,000 plus this year's contribution to MSI grant funding that is available to spend, and we have to spend 300,000 of that for sure, based on the letter we got a couple weeks ago. But we also have the other funding that Lori can talk about that is in the, used to be the gas tax fund. And then we have some other funds that are sitting in our bank account for other projects that haven't been spent. So
Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about what they called the federal gas tax. It used to be New Deal at one time, and then it changed to federal gas. Now it's Canada Community Building Fund. So like Dean had indicated earlier, that it used to be more to do with roads and things like that, but now they've opened it up, and it's quite similar to MSI. So we can use it on construction renewal, enhancement of our infrastructure already. So eligible expenses are acquiring, planning, designing, construction, renovations, and things like that. So, and it covers basically all the same kind of categories as roads, water, wastewater, stormwater. So it's available. Also, we haven't, this program has kind of been since 2005. Now it's about 12,000 or so a year is what we're eligible for, as you can see on the eligible list there. We haven't spent a lot of money there because we've been trying to use up the old street improvement program, and we were trying to use MSI so that we would keep getting the money, because as we get the funds in our bank account, I mean, we're earning interest on it, and that's helping us to make more money to spend on our projects. So that was kind of our focus at that time. So we haven't used a lot of the federal gas tax or the CCBF money. We've only done a couple of little projects, and that was, like I say, back then it was more to do with roads. So as you can see, we've received $71,000. We've eligible for 194. We've interest, so there's a $6,000 worth of interest, and we've only spent about $25,000 on projects. So we still have about $76,000 worth available on this project, or this grant program too. The other part of it, like I was saying, there's also the street improvement program. We've been whittling away at that, and that was also the Alberta government would send us the money. We, tried to use it up the best we could, but street improvement program was really geared for roads and things like that. So we don't have any pavement here. It was harder to use that kind of funding up, but we've been whittling away with it, and the dust control has helped us a lot in the sense that that's a project that costs a bit more, but we've been able to use the street improvement program, some MSI for it, and we've been trying to use it up that way. I think after our dust control this year, I believe the street improvement program, which is a defunct, they don't have that program anymore, but we still had about 20,000 or so in our bank account. So I think after the dust improvement this year, that program should be out of the way, and we can concentrate on using those kind of things more from the CCBF or from MSI. That kind of cover that, what we had.
yeah, and
Okay.
then there's the items on the financial statement, the 4 items every.
Oh,
month
yeah,
we keep carrying on.
right. In our, we call it unearned revenue, so it is,
your statement. Right there.
right there. So that's
Those
showing,
funds right there.
those funds there are what we actually have in our bank account, the board, the unearned MSI grants, the unearned federal gas. I've got the Dean, it's a CCBF one, unearned SIP grant, so, oh wait, sorry, it was about 30,000, that's why I'm saying dust control should help get rid of that this year. And then BMTG, which is Basic Municipal Transportation Grant, and that kind of comes hand in hand with the MSI, so it's part of the MSI program. So those are the four things that we have in our bank account, so we have $266,000 worth of federal and provincial grant money sitting there. That we have to account for, we have to pay or accumulate interest and things like that for.
And that deadline is when?
Well, like Dean was saying, they're kind of giving us a little bit of a deadline on MSI. I don't know if there's one on the CCBF, the kind of the community one. The SIP program is a defunct program. We have to try to get used to it. Otherwise, we have to send the money back to them.
We don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that. But we're, like I say, we would whittling away at it and we're sitting probably about 30,000 left. So we should get rid of it this year. It should be-
Well, the dust control is gonna eat up the SIP grant for sure
Yes,
next year, yeah. Laurie, I was gonna ask you, what's this NDCC?
it was called New Deal. Can't remember the full name of it. New Deal for Communities. When it first came out, it was NDCC and then it went to federal gas tax. It's just another.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That program has went through several changes. And now
Okay.
it's much more open. It's more open to different kinds of projects than it used to be, just kind of roads and those kind of things. It's opened up to a lot more projects.
Okay, yeah, I remember that, okay. Good enough. Is there any other questions for Laurie on that?
No, I think basically, I guess we just need to get together and get some ideas, I guess, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That should be the start of stuff, yeah, for sure.
And we do have some projects that have been on the books for quite some time, but never got
I think
started.
now that we have new council established, we should fill in Bob in on what we had discussed about that stuff so that he can give us some new ideas also. And his thoughts on what we've discussed, talked about earlier.
You bet, and that's important for especially new council. Because some of this stuff is getting more complicated every year. Bob, I just for reference sake, if it's okay, I just wanted to give you some MSI expenses in the past.
Sure.
So Truckville, we spent this is just approximate totals. We spent about $60,000. So that was our contribution. So we did the dirt work and the retaining wall there. And we did also the security system. So we contributed some, but we still got that $460,000 check that threw us all off. The boat launch that we put in there in 2011 cost us around $24,000. The Craig's Cove drainage system, we had to put a culvert through there, and it was a $20,000 bill. And the debenture for the Shirley McClellan water system, we had paid $10,000, and that was for our portion and Brownfield's portion. That was phase 4 and 5. We've also in the past paid debenture on the Shirley McClellan. Laurie, do you remember? I suppose we don't have.
We have.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. It was in 2016. We paid $30,000 on another debenture. So I did contact the county about, there was just certain times that you could pay off debentures, and it was to do with the fluctuation of the interest rates. And I believe we're now working with Capital Finance we were with the Royal Bank before with the Shirley McClellan, and whether they're two tied together or not, I don't know. But we just can't go up and pay any debentures off for the water, Shirley McClellan water, because there's all sorts of penalties that comes with paying them off early, which is too bad, because that would have been a good thing. Mind you, our debenture is not, since we paid off some of it, it's not as high as it would have been. I guess that's about all I got for there.
Okay. Do we have any equipment that we need?
Yes, there
Like-
is. There has been, I think that can come up at the meeting too. There has
Okay,
been
yeah,
some talk of some equipment.
okay, very good.
Okay, so where are we at here? I got paper all over the place. Okay, Lori, well, thanks very much for your presentation. And I think probably we'll be in touch. I don't know about the list of applications that we've made and that have not been used. Do you remember we made a list
Yeah,
of the,
we add projects as they kind of come up. It's better to have the applications in there, even if we don't go ahead with the project. So just to kind of get that pre-done. So there is a few left there, but yes, we can discuss what's left there. We've closed a lot of them off because they didn't go ahead, so.
right, okay. Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you wanted to leave the meeting, Lori, or,
I'll just sit here and listen. Thank you.
okay, okay, thank you. And thanks for all your work on that.
Yes, thank you.
So, moving on to bylaws and policies, there's nothing there. Dean, is there anything there?
Well, I've been working with the RMA Insurance on those two claims that we put in. One is the truck that backed off the boat launch and went into the water and had a write-off of this truck. And so because it was there's debate at the RMA over whether or not that our insurance should cover it. So they've been sort of dealing with it at the management and insurance level. So I'm trying to go through that with them because it does have signage that says use at your own risk. And there was other people using the boat launch that didn't drive off the boat launch and ended up being in the water. So that's anyway, so and then of course we had two claims by Ms. Keynes. One was for the original wall collapse claim and council had denied that. So that claim was also submitted, as well as the recent claim from this summer when we were pumping out of that pond when the water levels were getting higher because of the rains we had. And we were pumping overland through a hose into an outlet drain hose that was in the ground. And our summer staff were operating it and the connection popped out and spread the water all across our property. So in that case, the insurance company is going to cover it. But there's a bit of a delay on their insurance processing of the claim. So, but she will get a compensation for that. I'm just waiting to hear back from because they use multiple insurance carriers for us. So we buy the insurance through RMA, but they use different carriers for different components, whether it's liability for municipal buildings or whether it's for things like accidents and car accidents and stuff. So I am working with them to try to get this claim solved. And as soon as I get the word back from them on the claim, then I'll be sending the documentation to Ms. Keynes about her property claim, because we were responsible for the one situation. So she will be getting that. So just so council's fully aware of that, that comes to affect our premiums down the road, but it doesn't affect our cash situation today. So that's the situation.
Okay, thank you. So you want to take us through the finances?
So we gotta get back to the agenda. So, I guess the 7.1, the financial expense reports. If you have any questions on any of those that were prepared.
I just had a quick question. So all of this revenue, like general administration and planning and development, where does that money come from?
Which money do you, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, all this revenue at the top there. Like I understand the taxes and penalties. Where does the rest of that revenue come from? Like the 17,000 from. Oh, no, the other way. Oh, okay.
Hold on, there's a different one.
There's the detailed breakdowns on all of the accounts where the general.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. That's the detail. Okay, good. Okay.
Well, things like when we get requests for tax certificates, when we do permit processing, that goes to planning. When we get yeah, tax penalties that people don't pay the tax on time. There's other
Right. Okay.
fees. So there's a fairly good breakdown of everything.
Okay. Thank you. I see it now. Okay.
So, I mean, the goal is to cover our time costs with those, making sure that we have the policies in place so that if we do a tax permit, it's similar to the region as far as tax certificates go, but it covers the time costs of processing and it's usually for the law firms, the real estate companies, and the appraisers, because White Sands has a lot of sales happening, so there's a lot of requests from different agencies for that. We do probably 3 or 4 times what Ocean Sands does as far as tax certificates alone, much less other documentations.
Okay. Thank you. So is this based on a calendar year? Is our year end December 31st?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay.
So is there any other questions on any of the other pages? The other thing we're pushing hard on is to get tax recovery, and we've got a fairly extensive tax reminder program out to people. We're trying to get everybody's email and phone numbers in our tax system so we can contact people. And then we cut them down. So we were at like 30 or something before the taxes went out. And now we're down to what looks like eight outstanding, and only 2 are second year outstanding. So I'm preparing the letters to go out to them and informing them of the process. So if they don't pay at the end of this year, then I'm registering a Acadian against their property because they're into year 2. And then so in the next year they'll be into year 3. So I'll be registering a caveat, and we're going to charge a caveat registration fee, plus there's a registration fee charged by Alberta Land Titles. And then, so I usually send significant letters and warnings to people before any of this happens, so that they'll come in and at least pay. So I don't want to go through that process because it takes time, administration, and all that stuff to deal with. But it doesn't cost us more than 95 cents every month to send a reminder letter to people, or if we have their email, we send them a quick email as well. And most people have come in, and as you can see, all of the long term, because we had a couple into 2 and 3 years previously, and they've all been paid up. So either by sale of the property, or we found out there's a couple of cases where the individual has passed away and the property changed hands, and the family didn't know that they owe taxes. So somebody on that side didn't inform them, the lawyer or whoever. So now that those have all been handled, now we're down to a fairly minimal amount of outstanding taxes. So we've got the cash. And the other thing we've been pushing hard is we've been advertising our tax installment payment plan. And I think we're up to
for by January.
Yeah, so this upcoming year, we'll have 104 people paying essentially roughly 10% of their outstanding their taxes every month. So the first half of the year, we'll collect money that we wouldn't normally collect until August. We'll collect 10% per month of the taxes for the year based on the previous year's taxes. So they won't be far behind by the time we send the tax notices out and they have to finish the year. So it helps us with our cash flow, which is really good. But we're trying to make an effort also to get every one of those people into our tax and our emails and phone number system so that we can communicate with everybody electronically now.
Right. Was there any other questions on the financials?
No,
Okay. So we need a motion to accept them.
I can make that motion to accept the financial statements as shown.
Thank you. All in favor? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so council reports. Do you have anything, Ed?
Yeah, I got a couple here. For our skating rink and our curling rink, Jerry Linkner and his crew have offered to donate their time again to try and succeed in putting ice into Jack's Pond again this year. And Greg Wallace and Dwayne Hildebrand have offered their services to try and get some curling ice going. But it's going to take a little bit of ingenuity to do this stuff because we got no water out there anymore. So we're going to try and get that done. In regards to that, they requested that we open up the gates into Jack's Pond so that they have access with their trucks and side by sides, etc. I'm thinking that we should leave the remaining gates and the access closed to the lake until it freezes up a lot better, because if we open them up now, we're just inviting somebody to go up there and drown them. What do you think?
I know in the past what the procedure was is we opened the gates as soon as there was enough snow, so vehicles couldn't go down there and monkey around on certain places. But I don't know what the condition, like sometimes that lake you can't go on it until past Christmas sometimes, some years. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Is it all froze across? The
No,
lake? No. I guess
Yeah, it really should be, it should be like at least a foot thick or 14 inches thick before anybody goes on it, shouldn't it? The ice?
normally by December 1st, we're sledding out approximately 100 feet from shoreline. And that should be a kind of an indication of when we should open them gates up.
yeah.
Send our staff in.
Yeah, well, we can send Tim in and he can check the ice conditions before we open them gates.
So that there's snow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I think we have to do our due diligence and check the ice first, or there's a liability there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I don't know, Bob, how much there would be there, because if someone really wants to go on the lake, they'll go down to the boat launch and go on the lake or
You're
other
right,
areas.
yeah.
You know, and the folks in the bay over at Roshan, sometimes they're on there and I can't believe how early they are. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a few trucks go through the ice there, but our responsibility, I think that would have to be looked into, but I think our responsibility ends at the shore.
Well,
I agree.
if we open them gates up and some Yoko decides to take his truck down there and drive it out onto the ice because whatever, and he falls.
Yeah.
through, what
Yeah.
access does he have to get that truck out of there? And I don't think we should have to be responsible for letting them down our access and screwing it up if he's being that dumb.
Yeah, no, I agree, Ed, if you want to
I think we
Um,
can let Tim decide when we can open the gates up, if he feels it's safe, and he keeps tabs on the ice ticket.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's fine with me. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
I
to be
agree.
emotional.
I agree. Like, you know, if somebody's out there gonna put, go out there or whatever, they're likely gonna go drill a hole and sort of take a little measurement, I think, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Depends
You'd
who's
hope.
going.
You'd hope, right?
Yeah,
On another issue, we've got some dates penciled in for Family Day weekend for the hall rental here. The Stettler Board of Trade Fishing Derby is that weekend. And, I've got more meetings coming up with that. Because I sit on that board with them, and I'll have more information on how White Sands can help out with that issue also.
okay,
Go ahead.
so February, it's a definite, go ahead, Ed?
Yes, it is. It looks like it's more secure and more positive now. So.
Okay, so when you get things finally down pat, the day and time, if you let us know, and then we'll put it out in the newsletter.
Yeah,
For-
I should know
Yeah.
at the next meeting how firm that we're gonna be. And
Okay,
the next meeting is next Monday.
okay, so you're doing it with the Board of Trade?
Yes, the Board of Trade.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks for taking that on. It should be fun.
On another note, I'd like to see our fire ring delivered and set up over at Jack's Pond. Because there's more than enough snow now to prevent any fires to get away on us. We've got quite a bit of firewood over there to utilize. And I think I'd like to actually see the snow removal, that place kept clean, cleared off, and have that as part of our regular snow removal.
Yeah, that's important, Ed.
There's lots of people that are asking to have that open now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you think there's gonna be able to be the skating? Like, that's gonna be a ton of water to put in there.
That's up to that guy over there. We're gonna try.
Well, I think the maintenance folks can help haul in the water and stuff, and the
Yeah,
village
we
will
got
pay
time.
for the water.
He's got time, for sure.
Yeah, okay,
He's been running around here like crazy, plowing snow and doing a really good job of it.
good.
We got some good response in the Facebook page about the snow removal.
Yeah,
With some more council decisions, we can make that even better here, so that's coming up. On some new equipment.
okay. So I don't have very much. I just had the bus route and that's getting fixed up. And the windrows on the boat launch road, Ed, was that looked after? Like, I sent you an email on that, but
Oh, yeah, that was cleared up, yesterday or the day before. That was
okay,
what it was an unfinished project. I mean,
okay,
he had to go out
okay.
there and clean it all off, but it's cleaned off right to their property line, right to the gate, so it's good.
Yeah, she brought a friend with a farmer friend that had a tractor to do that part, so.
Yeah.
But as long as in the
So,
future.
We know
we
now
look-
that we're gonna keep that clean for her, so, and she's.
Okay. Okay, I'll talk to her. And Dean, with in past years with the RV inspections, we had the inspection done with all the leaves gone, so it was more clear. So maybe we should call out to get an inspection done. When it's, when the roads are cleaned off and everything.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Okay. So that's
Lauren,
all.
can you explain the RV inspections to me?
So we have a girl that goes around the village every week, starting in the early spring. The first run she does is when the leaves are off. And then probably around end of April or May, she starts inspections once a week and tallies and marks on a spreadsheet how many RVs are on a property.
Okay,
And then that information is collected on a continuous basis until the end of September, I believe, or into October sometimes. And so the village then has the spreadsheet to let the village know exactly if there's one RV, two RVs, three RVs, and when they're there. And so we can do the either the enforcement or the permitting that hasn't been paid. So,
okay, thank you.
okay. Dean, how's that, them permits coming?
As far, yeah.
okay.
Which permits are you talking about, Lauren?
We're talking
Oh,
about,
for the RVs, is there a lot that haven't paid yet? Or-
Almost caught up.
we're almost caught up. There was some that, because we have that list of 16 according to the bylaw that have that ability to have two,
Right,
because they don't have a house. But once they build the house, they can only have one on the site. So we have a couple individuals that have two lots, and one is grandfathered in and one is not, the firefighter. And he had people coming and going all summer, but none of them stayed for a extended time. So we, what we have to do in our inspection process for next year is if we can get close enough or zoom in close enough, we have to check to see it's the same trailer that's coming and going, or because technically after how many days, the 30 days, they have to pay an additional $300 for an RV permit. So we do have
Right.
some, and we did address one issue with the handicap last meeting, with the handicap van and the trailer attached to that. There was only one of them classified now as an RV, and the other one is classified as a handicap vehicle. So that, but there are a few people that had questions about it. But in order to sustain their, under the bylaw, if they have two under the bylaw and they decide only to pay for one and put one on for 1 year, the next year they're off the list. So they didn't know that, so they pretended not to know that. So we had a few discussions with people like that, but for the most part, I think we're about 75% plus collection. And
okay,
if they don't pay by the end of the year, then we put them on taxes in December. So they will get penalized on, because they're just an outstanding accounts receivable at that point. And they will get put on the taxes, so they'll have to pay them with the taxes and tax penalty for the future. So that's the next letter that has to go out for the people that are outstanding on their permits. So I think there's
yes,
10 complaints. So like as far as the process goes. So,
okay. I was wondering too, Dean, when let's say there is someone that has a property and had been paying for 2 units and then just goes down and pays for one, to remove them from the land use bylaw on that list. So I was just thinking, if someone else bought the property and read the land use bylaw and that property was still in the land use bylaw for 2, is it possible for Leanne to take that off the list that's published on our website?
yeah, so what we could do is we could amend the land use bylaw to make that section a schedule, like Schedule A, Schedule B, or whatever in the.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea, because then you don't have to have a public hearing or anything.
Right, and the schedule can be changed by policy, not by, it doesn't have to change the bylaw every time. So.
Yeah,
you gotta get.
that's a great idea. So it'd be just like the building permit and whatever,
So I'll-
copy, yeah.
I'll talk to Leanne about setting that up. So,
Yeah, that would fix it permanently, yeah. Good, thank you. Okay, CAO report. I didn't get a copy of that, but can you just briefly?
yeah, I thought I attached my CAO report, but it's not there, so I'll send it to you. But the only thing different from the last meeting is I attended the Alberta Summer Villages 2-day conference, which there's a whole bunch of different sessions on issues related. And I met with a number of counselors from other communities as well. I met with the CAOs from the other summer villages at the conference, and it was in Nisku. And I stayed at my sister's, so there's no hotel bill or anything, it's just mileage. But the conference was fairly good, it did cover a lot of issues, and I got to network with the other CAOs that are dealing with similar situations to what we're dealing with. So it was productive use. And then I've been working on the insurance claims to make sure we try to wrap them up by the end of the year. They don't want to carry the insurance claim into next year. If I can get them wrapped up this month to be paid by December, then they're off our books as far as liabilities. And then the other outstanding legal issues. And then the other thing I've been working on is municipal affairs has been asking us to finish off these outstanding reports for year-to-year reports that we have to do. So I've been meeting with the online and with phone, meeting with the different people from the municipal affairs departments to finalize these reports that were outstanding from previous years, and also to ensure that we're in good stead going forward. So we're not going to get anything, well, like the grants, we don't want to get the grants clawed back. And then as far as that goes, I'm trying to work on your strategic plan. So I'm putting all the information together from your previous meeting. Plus I'm putting in Doug Griffith's 13 ways. So we can talk about the 13 ways to improve your community as opposed to the 13 ways to kill your community. So I'm putting that in as well as a list of capital items that your public works foreman has put forward as things he would like to see in the future. One of them is the possibility of adding a snow blade to our truck, and a couple other small pieces of equipment for the summer students, and to put water tanks on to go wash out the outhouses and maintain them a little bit better. And then any other things that that we need to improve, getting internet and cell phone service into the building next door, you know, things like that, because we're not putting an office in at this point. So we need to make sure he has cell phone access in the building if he's in the building, and then you know, different things like that, just small capital items. And then it's just projects. As you know, we've got a rogue beaver that we still haven't caught. And luckily it's freezing up, so he's not taking down trees, but we've been wiring things up, as well as the tree planting program here. We've been wiring up the trees so the deer aren't eating them. And then just there's a lot of issues with coming up to year end that have to start, and we have to get the initial budget in place. So that'll be coming up for our strategic meeting as well. So there's lots on the go. And then of course, we've got collection of taxes and collection of RV permits and everything else related to that. So
Dean, can I just comment on one thing that you said? Guys, I had the opportunity to go over and watch Clinton with his snowplow that belongs to the Roshan Sands, and how he uses it and whatnot, and how it works, and it's the cat's ass. And I really think that's something that we should invest in, because he gets everything done in one day. Regardless, and it does a wonderful job. He did clean out the approaches well, because it's angled, and it's something that would fit onto our truck quite easily. And I think that's one of the first things that we should look at and getting here ASAP, because this last snowfall here, the snow plowing was right up to snuff and it was done real quick and a nice job too. So, I guess I got one question for Dean though. Now I guess we're trading back and forth labor for Tim and Quentin with chainsaw work. I totally agree with it because I don't think they should be working alone when they're running the chainsaw. And it's a lot of work for one guy to do, taking trees down. How do we manage liability, switching that back and forth? Is that
Well,
pretty easy?
liability stays with the community that's
Okay.
doing the work.
But it's
until-
taken care of if somebody gets hurt.
Yes, we've got WC on both sides.
Okay.
The reason why we're working together in a team of two
Yeah.
is because of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
We've got a list of number of trees that are dead that we have to take down in the parks and you've got a list of X's on trees that have to be taken down. And then, so we're just complementing each other and then we're keeping track of the hour and making sure that the hour and equipment and whatever else is used is balanced.
Works out even.
Yeah,
Perfect, 100%.
otherwise we'll be sending White Sands significant invoices.
Yeah.
For the time.
But I do think that that's something that we should look into is that blade for the front of our own truck. Because it's way better.
Would that blade be something we could put through on this MSI grant, Lori?
It'll definitely, but it's definitely something we can do quickly. We don't have to have a big process, but we do need to submit it. And then pay for it through capital.
So
But
Ed, do you want to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion that we proceed with that.
we just have to get the quote
Yeah.
finalized.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yep,
I agree.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Dean.
Okay.
So going into business, we got the Parkland Regional Library request. Now, I don't know. This is kind of a confusing issue to me. If they don't use our census, what's the implications, Dean?
Yeah, so there's no real decisions to be made on these, other than the fact that, we don't attend the, I don't have no desire to amend the agreement, because right now we don't have library. So we have, the town of Donalva is representing both Summer Villages, on the board, so we are getting some representation, and council can get a report from that person. But we don't have any plan to change the agreement at all. Unless council sees a reason, and our population is based on our full-time population, not on our seasonal population. So we only pay, I think it was seven something per capita. And so it's based on our census, and we don't do our own census. So it's based on the provincial or federal census. So.
Hey, what the, Dean, can you explain to us what this Treasury Board population stats, like, how does that work?
Oh, that's quite actually. So,
So it's upward.
yeah, like, So the population estimates are generally, when municipal affairs does their annual census, they know the growth rate of the communities roughly, and when they send information to other agencies, sometimes they project forward what the potential growth rate is. But most of the times, the Office of Census of the Treasury Board, they go with, depending on how close the year of the census was, they just go with the existing census. But when they know, like, for example, Sylvan Lake was growing at 10% annually for a number of years. So it was, they either had to give Silver Lake money so they can do their own census every year, because all of our grants are based on population. And so.
Right.
In this case, we're not growing, we're growing a lot faster than Roseland Sands, but we're not growing significantly to have a census paid for by us or by municipal affairs or whatever other agency they would do it. So it's not worth it for us to pay someone to go around and take a census. We just get it done every 5 years. And we know the growth from every 5-year segment. So sometimes, in our case, it's not really a big factor, but sometimes they factor forward the projection in growth for us.
Okay, and I guess that answers it good enough, but it's still a confusing system to me. But anyway, so we're at 120 and that's where we're staying, I guess, as far as this document goes for Parkland Regional Library.
So ultimately, this doesn't affect us a whole bunch. So obviously, these towns that are worried about it, it affects them, but for us, like, the difference of a few people would be just a few dollars, so it's not really anything we need to worry about too much, is it?
How much does it affect us?
It's not really affecting us much, whether they change it one way or the other, do they?
Typically, we're trying to configure the blocking and mesmerized by the screen. I can't think because I'm looking at a whole.
We can throw up on our screen here.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a catty wall that's going on the screen. So, anyway, so every 5 years there's a federal census that is required. Generally, it's done sort of in timing with the federal election, so they know where people are, who people are, so they don't do an election registries list. And then sometimes the province does it in between the federal election, in federal census, just to keep a consistency and select the growth in high growing communities. And if communities are disappearing, they also want to collect that, because then they don't have to send as much grant money to the individual communities that are declining. But they also get a lot of pressure from the individual municipalities to get grants based on the census, right? So in the case of like a larger municipality, they may have an annual census budget and they just do it every year. Because they know they're growing at a rate that will affect all of the grants they get from the different agencies at different levels. So they know it's worth their while to do a census. And so that's how a census is generally calculated.
Yeah, I guess my only comment on that too would be is if that changed within our community, then a lot, some of our requisitions are based on population.
Yes.
As well as the grants. So it could be an up thing or a down thing, but we could get into trouble with some requisitions, like for example, the waste disposal.
Right.
I don't know. I it's just a concern, that's all.
Yeah. And a lot of our agreements with the county are based on our census of the day, and they want to know what the changes are. So they call us every year to see if the census has changed or if we've added people or not. And so they want to know what the actual numbers are. Because we have a lot of agreements with the county and the regional entities. So they want to know what our population changes are. This is library as well, but if there isn't, they call every get an update.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dean?
No, not from me.
We need a motion.
No, that's good.
Okay. So the next item there is 9.3, the election.
Need a motion to accept the Parkland.
Pardon me?
As information.
Yes. Thank you. The election results for our by-election, a sheet in there, just a comparison.
Yeah, well, because we have to present this as an expense, because it was the unforeseen, unbudgeted expense, we basically just put a little bit in the years we know the election's coming up normally. So we don't normally have a full budget every year for a by-election, right? So we get, once we get the estimates of what the election costs, then we present it to council and they accept it, so that you have clarity on what the cost was this year. So this report says that an annual or a regular election every 3 years or 4 years is roughly $5,000 in cost. The majority of that cost is for advertising. So it was like 1,600 of that 5,000 is for advertising, and then the rest, the remaining would be for the nomination day salaries and benefits and things like that, and printing costs, and the election day costs of staffing. And so roughly a regular election costs us $5,000. This by-election, because we didn't do near as much advertising, because we just advertised with the ECA, and we also sent out, we did postings on our website. We also sent out emails. We put together an email list and sent it out to all of the residents that were on our email list. So we did a newsletter. Our cost for advertising was only roughly $580. And then the ballot costs and everything else was the same. The election prep was less because we just finished an election, so we didn't have near as much prep. So that was significantly less. As far as the rest of the cost for staffing and whatever, it's pretty much the same. So it ended up costing us $3,128 as opposed to $5,000. So, and we just need council's approval to put this in, because it's an over expenditure on your budget.
I would make the motion that we accept this amount of cost for the election.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah,
And I'd just like to thank Judy Peeler and her crew. So Aaron and Heather Zarfeld, yes, and they did a great job. And I know that Judy is very proficient in that field. So we're glad to have her, and thanks very much. Okay, we got next 9.4 WSP engineering. So basically this is just a quote for the road
The county-
inspection.
No. In our last meetings with the county, they had suggested that they were willing to work with WSP, which is the engineer on file with Roads and Sands, to apply for grants and to do a road study for the road from the boundary of White Sands to Highway 56 and from 601 to down 202 to, I think it's 404. Yeah. So they were willing to look at and work with WSP, which is not their current engineer, because they're having problems with their current engineer. But if we want to, WSP can help us apply for the grants so that we can not have to pay out of pocket to figure out what the actual cost will be, and then we can apply for an intermunicipal grant program, so we can pay for any future engineering or any road improvements. Then we can put together a study to actually work with the county on it, and the intermunicipal fund will pay for that project as opposed to coming out of our pockets. But in order to engage WSP, we need to have a contract in place with them, because they won't do any engineering work unless we do that. So if you want to go this route, and the council of the county isn't basically asking us for $53,000 a year to pay for our portion of the additional maintenance during the summer months of those two roads, and in order to remove the road bed, and that's basically their. So this is one of the possible solutions for us, is to hire WSP. We can use some of the municipal money, operating money, or the capital money towards this, and we can spend some of that money and also we can apply for other grants. And they can also help us with other programs as well, but if you're interested in this, or if you want to go with our existing engineer that works with the subdivision, I think we have Altera. Yeah, Altera. So because they're working with with Roshan Sands and they're very familiar with the area, they have a local engineering tech who lives in the community. It'd be very easy to work with them. So that's why I asked them to put together just an engagement letter for you guys if you're willing to consider it.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see what the county says about our negotiations before we get into this.
We can't do anything until we do an engagement letter.
So a couple of points I had. First of all, I think there was a mistake on the road. It said Highway 616
Yeah.
instead of Highway 601.
Highway 601 to Township Road 404 is the one
It
access.
said 616 on this letter.
Yeah, I probably made a typo on that. I do-
Okay, so yeah, I just make sure. Now, a couple of questions I have is, so we've put in a grant to, we've put in a proposal to the county for $40,000. I saw that in the last minutes. Is that correct?
Well, they have not responded.
They haven't responded.
That is
So
either
this fund,
or it is, you can ask them this afternoon if you want, it's emergency services, but
I'm assuming that that's gonna be on their next county agenda meeting.
it will be on the next county agenda, so.
okay,
You can
Yeah.
watch that online on YouTube, I'm sure.
Just
so
for
we
your
made this,
story,
so- so we've made this proposal. But so what we're looking for in the future for this 5,000 is to spend money to get grants in the future to help
It's
keep these roads up.
It's basically a retainer, and then so once you sign the contract, then they'll start looking into things and bill us for the hours that they need to do to start the grant processes, to start the road study, but it doesn't include the actual road study. So they have to get a grant in order to pay for that, because what they'll do is the county told us the road is basically built on sand. Doesn't have a clay base or anything. And then the county told us that it was gonna cost $250,000 a mile to do a proper improvement. So I don't even know what the road is, and I don't think we should be paying for it at all. But if the province is willing to give us the money to do the study, then we can apply for a bigger grant, and the province gives us the money to share with the county to actually fix the road, then, or a good portion of it, then the county can take out an adventure or whatever and pay for the road with provincial grant money. Because we're not in a position in a small community to pay for regular maintenance, but their point is that we've never paid for regular maintenance of their road, and we've been here for 52 years, and they're running out of money, so they want us to pay our share. So,
Now, the other question that I had is, and this is not necessary to do the study, but it's talking about doing the road from 56 to like the water station, then doing the road from, like Bar Harbor or that corner there up to 601. If we're just looking for trucks, heavy trucks to go, do we need both those roads opened up?
I would say not.
Like if we just did the road over to 56, that gets you over to Hardtop, and so like, as far as dealing with the county, could we cut the amount in half by saying we don't care about heavy trucks going from that boat launch road up to 601?
so, I mean, they're saying that we're not just heavy trucks, but we're using their other roads to access. The residents are using them and they're using them for equipment, trailers and other stuff. For the most part, our traffic goes down 56, right? Almost everything.
The heavier traffic goes to 56, but the, you know, the light traffic, public traffic will take the road down to 601.
And they're not willing to do a traffic study because they told us that the last time they did a traffic someone stole their traffic counting equipment. So here we'll do the traffic study, and present the report. But it would have to be over a period of time. But in the meantime, if they continue to insist, you guys pay the 53,000 per year in order to get this road ban removed, even though there's no need for road ban anymore because everything's gonna be frozen and everything's tight and dry. Then, I mean, we're basically, it's up to council, politically. I mean, we're between a rock and a hard place.
Well, I think we should wait for a response from the county on our proposal that we gave them. And their council meeting is delayed a week, so it's going to be next week now. And see what they say.
Okay. So that's fine. So we're just gonna table this item, so we just need a motion to table until the next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I think so, Dean, in my opinion, and that's like, if we retain the engineering company, WSP, and pay them the $5,000 for the retainer, I mean, we may not use them, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with.
We don't pay the cash until we actually get work done. It's just, we have to do an engagement contract and they send us invoices based on the actual work. So we can table it to the next meeting until we hear back from the county.
Yeah, and do we know whether the county would still agree to use this engineering company? Like
I'm sure they would agree to use this engineering company because it's being used here locally anyway with Ocean Sound, right?
The county actually recommended this company because they don't want to work
Okay,
for an engineer.
And I'd sooner have WSP's word opinion than having anybody since with a counselor from the county of Stettler, because none of them know what dirt is anyway. As far as I'm concerned, because they're telling us stuff in that last meeting in there that the best way for compaction is in dry weather. Well, that's just totally opposite the reasoning. I'd sooner take WSP's word for what we need to do there than getting it from the county of Stettler.
okie doke. So do you want to make a resolution that we accept WSP and if we need them?
Well, only if we need them. We gotta wait until the county comes back with our proposal and see what they want. I mean, it's all got to do with money at this point, and
Yeah.
we all know that.
Yeah, okay. Dean, do we need a resolution?
No, we just need a motion to table at this point.
Okay,
And we did, so if you guys are okay with that, we'll just wait.
okay, thank you. So next item is Apex Utilities.
So every year they send us a summary, and what this is basically, we, as a municipality, for the right to use our utility system, we have the ability to charge a franchise fee or a tariff fee. Where it benefits the municipality is if we have other buildings, other structures in the community like schools, hospitals, or any other provincial buildings, we would charge a tariff so that, because they don't pay taxes, we essentially get a tax revenue given back to the community to help pay for power. But in this case, because we're a largely residential community, there's not really a benefit to do a royalties or a tariff on the power. And power costs are too high already. So I present this to you every year, I will, because it's required to, so you guys are aware of it. But, at this point, I'm not gonna recommend that you, do a franchise fee. So,
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
so you can just accept this information.
Yeah. So next item, 9.6.
Yeah, so Mr. Hoffmer is, he has snow grooming, equipment for cross-country skiing. So he does a trail along the south shore, and he's put an application in to connect the trails between White Sands and, for cross-country ski recreation, all the way through Roshan Sands and through the top of the Roshan Sands Park, so that people can cross-country ski and he uses his own track on his side-by-side, and he's got a trail groomer. And so what he's looking for is not for you to pay for it, what he's looking for is some sponsorship, because he has to buy a bunch of signage, and he wants to offer this as a recreation for the community. And he's looking for help, either if you're willing to contribute some funds for signage, or if you're willing to contribute some funds for like a UFA gas card or something. But what Roshan Sands has decided to do is they would pass this on to their rec board, and they would apply for the funding through the rec board program, because it is more of a recreation related thing. And if council's interested in either sponsoring him or because he's doing a service for the whole South Shore, and he's just interested in engaging the community to do this cross-country ski trails and throughout along the lake shore. And then possibly, if we are interested, he would drive in and use some of the trails into White Sands as well, if that's something that interests the county, I mean, the municipality. So he does a certain number of trails through the county as it is, but or the county boundaries or the lakefront boundaries. But he asked me to present it to you just to see what your feedback would be on it. And that's it.
Well, again, this is something that's gotta be done, or should be done ASAP, because we got snow.
Yeah. Well, if you guys are interested in sponsoring, he's not looking for a lot of money.
How
What
much?
he's looking for is just a little.
What's your recommendation?
Well, his signs, like he's got signage, we can offer to pay for a couple signs, or we can pass it on to the rec board. If the rec board wants to work with them and, put on an event, we can basically ski from here, right onto this trail, and then we can go all the way to Ocean Sands and back, and we can have little ski events.
Because there isn't a lot of people in this village that do cross-country ski, so I think it would be a benefit if we helped out with this. What do you think, guys?
Well, yeah, I'm just not sure. We can't do it through the rec board yet because we're not a member. But what we can do is just come up with a dollar figure and get them a check. So I don't know, what are you thinking, $500 or I don't know, how much, Dean, do you think?
He's not looking for much, he was just asking for like $100 gas card. Seriously, he didn't ask for a lot, he just wants permission from the summer village to be part of it, so that he can offer some ski trails through the community if you guys want them. But he just doesn't have it within his own personal fundraising to do the whole thing and the community, if this gas costs money. And he's got to do 15 signs, so he might need to do another 4 or 5 signs for White Sands. So it's up to council if you guys want to sponsor it or not.
I think it's a good idea.
I think
Well,
give him a couple $100 for gas and go skiing.
And the signs would be a one-time expense because he'd use them year after year.
Well, that keeps the snowmobilers off the track too.
Yeah,
okay,
so
So we got a motion for that? Is that what you guys want?
well, I think it should be more than a couple $100, but that's my personal opinion. I mean, he's got
What do you
wear and
think?
tear.
yeah, I think, yeah, like $200, like it's almost like a mileage thing, right? For like when you drive your car, right?
There's some people here saying $500.
Yeah.
Okay, for 500. I agree with you, Lauren.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Ed, do we want to make a motion on that and vote on it properly?
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah. I would like to make that motion that we go through the Hall Society with this.
Sponsor through the whole,
And we sponsor through the Hall Society.
that way they can apply in the future, recreation.
Well, yeah, because they're going, the Hall Society is going to be associated with recreation.
So what are we saying that we'll first ask the Hall Society for the money and then or to sponsor it, and if not, we'll cover it?
I think so, or maybe they want to share in some of it. Like, we've done that before.
Why
But
don't
you'd
we
have-
make a motion? Why don't we make a motion that we would allocate up to $500 expense if necessary to help this gentleman with his snow removal or his tracking, his cross-country ski tracking. And then we could ask the Hall Society, and if they give $250, we would only, so we would say up to $500, not 500. We would say up to 500 rather than a hard figure of 500.
The Hall Society has to apply through recreation. They're the ones that are capable of doing that.
They only raise money through the bottle collection essentially, and their events. So what we would be doing is sponsor the Hall Society to sponsor him, because we already pay for all of the utilities and stuff. So in order for the Hall Society to get refunded on utilities and insurance, they have to put it together and they have to submit to the regional rec board. And then that's how they get their funding. So to ask them to match dollar for dollar, they might not like that idea because it's not part of their programming right now. And it's kind of doing what the county is sort of forcing people to do stuff they may or may not want to do. So if we want to sponsor, we can sponsor the Hall Society to sponsor. And then if they want to take it on and do it year after year, then the Hall Society can come to us or the rec board to get funding every year.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay,
Okay, sound good?
I don't know how the hell you're gonna word that motion, but anyway.
I would propose that we allocate up to $500 as needed to help cross-country skiing, help to groom the cross-country ski trails in our village
Okay,
And through the Hall Society.
yeah,
through the Hall Society.
Yes, yeah,
yes.
Okay, all in favor?
yeah.
Yep,
I agree.
Good.
okay. So the next thing we got is the budget. Dean, you said it has to be preliminary submitted before the end of the year.
Yes, so we have to have, this is just a blank budget for next year. So what we
Right.
have to do is have what's called a provisional budget. An operating budget for next year, but according to the Municipal Government Act changes, it has to be approved by council by motion before December 31st. So it's active on January 1st. So this is for your information and for the public to show how the funds are being allocated. So if before the end of the year, you just want to say, oh, we're just gonna, for operating purposes only, until we get a finalized budget in March, we're just going to put forward the 2022 budget in 2023 to give you guys operating funds for next year. And that's
So
it.
basically, that's the same we've been doing all these years anyway, pretty well,
Right,
right?
so you don't have to make a decision today, it's just for you to look at and to think about where you want to reallocate your funds. If you want to reallocate some funds and then put forward at the next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I think probably if council can take these papers and go over them and get some of that absorbed, then we can make a solid decision on what direction you want to go. If there's anything in there that you need to be questions about, or if you want some things changed. And Dean can certainly give us direction because we've changed a few items throughout the year. Like we have, for example, the development and the development officer's job has got pretty extensive, but there was also, remember, we did the land use bylaw change, which took quite a bit of that. So if we can just go through that, and then if there's any questions from you guys when you're studying up on it, then just contact Dean and he'll explain it, or you can contact me and I'll get some answers too.
Great.
I did have one or two questions, Dean. Just on that firefighting bill, have we collected that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay. And also the Shirley McClellan debt interest, so our debentures 4,500 for budget and actual is 846. So what happened there
There'll be more payments yet.
on page 5? Did we just not get the requisitions yet? I think that's what's happened.
There'll be more payments in December yet.
Okay,
It's not
okay,
complete for the year
Yeah.
yet. This is only talk.
okay,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Thanks, Lori.
Some payments come out quarterly based on the requisitions, and some payments come out monthly, depending on the agency. And some payments they come out semi-annually, twice a year, and some payments come out once a year. Depending.
Right. Okay, thank you. But anyway,
One question I had is the money that we have sitting there, what is happening with that money? Is it in like a high interest savings account, or is it in GICs, or how does that go? Like if we have reserve funds and things like that?
Right now, it's just sitting in your bank account. And I believe once it changed from our combined with the town, we were getting a good interest rate on our bank account, but I don't think when we left the town's administration, we have the same agreement with the TD Bank anymore. So they are just sitting in your regular bank account, and I do not believe you're getting any interest.
Not very much. So
Well, I'm just thinking that, if we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting there,
right.
that we need to negotiate with the TD Bank to get it into a high interest savings account. Even if we get 2 or 3% on that money, it could turn into tens of thousands of dollars a year.
Yes, so my suggestion, I'm gonna bring it up in the next meeting and in our strategic session, is that we layer a number of GICs out. Because if you do a 1-year GIC of $100,000, it pays a lot more than a 1-year GIC that's flexible. And right now, the 1-year GIC at $100,000 is 4.75%, where the flexible one is only 3.5%, but you can take it out at any time. And because we've got so many people signing up for the TIPS program, any money that we have in our bank account, we can layer it out throughout the year. So we could have multiple $100,000 GICs layered out to different times of the year where we need to spend it. For the most part, our TIPS program should cover most of our minimum operating costs until summertime, when we have students and other projects start to happen. So we could layer out a good GIC program, and council can approve it. So we'll get somewhere between 3.75 and 4.5% on all our money throughout the year, and then when we do the projects, if we have to access some of the money, if some of it's flexible, because we have to access it for our MSI spending, then we can access the money without too many penalties, and then we still get the interest up to that day we access the money. And then when we get the money back from the provincial government, because it takes 60 to 90 days to get the money back usually, then we can put the money back into GICs and replace the funds. So that's gonna be my suggestion going forward, and that's similar to what Ocean Sands has been doing for quite a while. But they were just bumping it into a redeemable GIC, which was only paying them 0.6%. So
Yeah.
what they previously were until this year, that's what the banks were paying you for your money. And so now I know the rates are at 3.5 to 4.5%, so it'll help the municipality with cash flow or cash accumulation. So yes, we will do that.
I think that's a great idea. The other question I have is, now I think like the TD Bank and stuff is, are we going to move that around to different institutions so that we keep it under the amount that CDIC, the insurance rate is and stuff like that?
Well, if the GICs, they're guaranteed 100%, you don't have to, but yes, in our regular bank account, there is a restriction as to how much you can put in and be covered by the insurance. But for the most part, the Canadian banks are some of the securest banks, but it's better to have it in a GIC that's guaranteed than it is to have it in your bank account.
I agree, yeah. No, I mean, if the TD Bank goes down, we all go down, but still, you know, we can, you know, we could find some kind of like, I know we want to keep it all safe, but it might be an idea we might get better rates at somewhere other than TD as well.
Yeah, now we'll look into that and bring it forward to council. I know World Bank is 0.75 and 3.75 right now. So that's.
I think also, Bob, just for information, is that there's regulations on where a municipality can put their money.
Yes, and there is a policy that is established by municipal affairs for, we can't invest in anything but government sponsored GICs and AAA government entities. So.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't want to do anything otherwise. Yeah.
So it's very, we can't invest in private stocks, and there's a whole bunch of regulations. We can't invest in other, like even ETF funds we can't invest in. So it's a restrictive window, if you will, into the investment world.
No, I think that's a good policy. I just, you know, I mean, this was enough. This didn't make any difference for the last years when you were getting like 0.3% on your money, but now that you can get 3 or 4%, we're talking serious money here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dean, also, is there anything through the provincial government that says I guess this is a question for Lori, that like, let's say MSI grant money that we have in our account or any of that other grant money, is that able to be put in GICs? Or do they not want you to do that?
No, and I think that's where we always had it, just in your regular bank account. But at that time, we had a good interest rate. It's just that interest rates have gone really down, and we're not taking advantage, or we don't have that advantage anymore with the big buying power. So we just have to look at putting our regular money away in terms or GICs.
Yeah. And
Okay, so not the grant money that we have in our account.
No, we still have to give them interest, but we have to give them the interest that we're getting for it. So
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's good. 9.8. That was in addition to the agenda?
or we just, so it'll be
Oh, we don't have it on here, so maybe just talk to them.
so, I think they need to know if they need money. Yeah, so it's, we've got all those letters.
I don't have, no, oh, we just need that.
So we've got the I put them both under the. So the, as our other items on the agenda were, Leanne is now here for the request we had from, the developer, for JCM, which is Craig Maynard, to do some snow removal, of those two roads that are, unfinished under the phase 2 development. He's requesting that the municipality do the snow removal on those roads and then invoice him for the work. However, and Leanne can explain this, our contract is fairly restrictive with him. If he hasn't finished his work and we do any work on his subdivision that's not approved or signed over to us, then we take on any liabilities for any things that could go wrong in that area. So if he claims that we've done damage to the road.
You just muted yourself.
Okay, so if he does if we do any damage using our own equipment or our own staff, then he could claim that against the development process, and it could in fact. Be a grounds for voiding the whole agreement and leaving us stuck with him not finishing the job. And so right now, council is very aware that he has a certain commitment to complete, that both engineering companies have agreed to, and then council has agreed to. So, and Leanne is keeping track of everything and all the changes. So, my recommendation is the CAO that if we do any work, it won't be our staff, it'll be through a third-party contractor that he has to pay directly, and it won't be. So, for example, if we hire a grader operator to come in once or twice a year to do our main roads with the grader and the swing blade, then we could send the grader operator over to do that piece, but it's not under our name, it would be under the contract with credit. So that he would bill the director. So I know it seems harsh, but for the people who live there, but we can't take on his responsibility until his contract is completed. And that's Leanne's concern as well. So Leanne, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to it. So can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So I have taken the opportunity to review the request. The request is specifically asking that the village take over the plowing in the development area. I've also reviewed the development agreement, and I would really caution council to take this on. Article 8 of our development agreement indicates that they actually have a 2-year warranty period where they manage all municipal improvements following a construction completion certificate, which, might I add, they have still not received. They are in the process of a remediation plan that hopefully next summer we can enter into a construction completion certificate, and that triggers 2 years of them maintaining those roads. Following that 2 years, we would go in and make sure that there has been no deficiencies or damage or anything in that 2-year window, and then issue a final acceptance certificate, at which point the village would then take over control and complete maintenance of those roads. This is standard process for any development within the province of Alberta. And right now you have a development agreement that was entered into in 2018 that outlines this very clearly. Should there be involvement of the village, you do run the risk of voiding the development agreement and 8.3 of that agreement, which indicates that if there is any damage where repairs or replacements are needed for municipal improvements maintenance, which is exactly what snow removal is, that is on the developer for 2 years following a CCC. So again, I've had this conversation with the CAO and sharing that with you here today. I caution the village being involved at all. The developer has every opportunity and right to hire a third party to maintain that and have direct contact with them. But I don't believe that it's the village's position to be getting involved. That is my professional recommendation.
Can I, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it is now officially a school bus route as well? Does
Yeah,
that
so
make-
that's why we're having this discussion,
Okay,
but, and yeah. So do you want to address the school bus route portion of it? It doesn't really affect our contract. He's still responsible for it for 2 years after the CCC as well. I do understand it's a school bus route and a third-party contractor can be hired, but the bills have to go directly to Craig Maynard, not to the municipality.
Mhm.
Or JCM Adventures, the name of this company, so.
Yes, that's
So-
correct.
In that case, then, it makes sense that we shouldn't get involved, and Craig, in my opinion, should find a contractor and have someone in the subdivision call the contractor when it's needed for snow removal. And we're right out of it. I don't want to put us in a position where we get in a muddle, that's for sure. That's my
I think
opinion.
I agree. I think we have to just take take the professional advice we've received from Leanne and Dean and stay out of it. He can hire his own people.
I had another question, Leanne. On that 2-year, after it's been accepted, so then he is still responsible for the maintenance?
Yeah, there's a 2-year warranty period after we've issued the construction completion certificate. Following that 2-year window, we'll re-inspect it with our engineers. All being good, we'll issue a final acceptance certificate, at which point we take control.
Okay, so with the phase 1 and phase 2, we didn't wait 2 years before we had our equipment on them roads.
I
So
can't
this,
speak to the development agreements from the future phases. I can only speak to the development agreement of the current phase that's under construction. I was not the development officer at the time of the previous phases, so I don't have that information in front of me, Lauren. I can certainly pull those files from the office and review them and let you know, but I don't
Well,
have that information.
you know, I guess, Leanne, it doesn't matter. If that's what is in this agreement, then that's how it's going to be. So I wonder if Craig realizes that after that subdivision has been accepted, he has to still take care of the roads for 2 years.
Yeah, there is a clause in there that under an emergent situation, the village could go in and do a repair if, say, something happened. You know, there was an accident that caused, you know, some kind of damage to infrastructure. There is a clause in there that allows the municipality to go in an emergent situation. But, you know, general maintenance of snow clearing does not define an emergent situation. There are contractors within, you know, the community that certainly can go and perform this type of work, and the developer has every right to hire them. But again, having the village go in and do that work, or even being the middleman, really opens you up for liability. And so if
Yeah.
council was to consider that, I would strongly recommend that you draft a new form of agreement to ensure that it does indemnify you and does not void your development agreement. Because you have right now an unaccepted infrastructure that we're waiting for next summer for construction to take place. If it was to void this, then you're on the hook for all of it. And right now you're protected.
Yeah, no, I think we just have to let Craig know, and especially maybe he does know about that 2-year thing, but he should be, whoever talks to him, he should be notified of that as well.
Well, he would have known that in 2018 when he signed the agreement. We walked through all of the articles at that time. If he hasn't reviewed it since that time, I don't know, but I can certainly include that section in our correspondence going back to him following whatever decision is made here today.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess all we need is a motion then.
I would motion that we don't get involved with any snow removal in the Ranch Road area. And we allow. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it.
I have one written up. You want me to read it?
Pardon me?
I have one written up. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
To inform JCM indentures Buffalo Ranch Estates that the Summer Village will not do any snow removal and advise that the developer must hire their own contractor to remove snow or any maintenance of the road in Buffalo Ranch Estates subdivision. Phase
I would
two.
make that motion.
Aaron, can you add, within that motion, I think it sounds great, but can you add that they are upholding the development agreement that was executed in, hang on, August of 2018?
Okay, got it.
Okay, so I will make that motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So under correspondence, we had the letter from Municipal Affairs telling us about our problem with the unspent money. And then we also have a letter from the ratepayer about the road ban and renewing negotiations. I don't see that on here, but anyway, it's in there. So we can just accept that as correspondence, if that's okay.
Yeah, and this only covers their expenditures or your allocations from 2007 to 2018. So that next year we'll probably get another letter from 2018 to the end of the program that will have to spend the following amounts. So this is only covering the, we have to put the list of expenditures on the 2022 financial statements or the 2023 financial statements of funding for $299,045 for the MSI capital expenditures. So that means we have to spend it, we have to have the project completed and have the expenses submitted with all the documentation next year, this year and next year. We don't have much time with this year. And that's just covering up to 218.
Yeah, so Dean, does that mean that the project has to be completed by December 31st, 2023?
It has to be completed and the expenses have to be submitted and recorded in our statement to municipal affairs and they have to approve it. So not only the projects have to be submitted initially to get approval, but then all expenses have to be calculated against the projects by that time.
Okay,
I'm saying our window is getting very thin. Because if you've got to go
right,
by February to get work done by the end of the year, you're allowed to expense up to that amount. So you guys got to pick some fairly substantial projects, or you have to send back money
right.
I do that.
or lose it.
You don't wanna do that.
You
Okay, so that concludes that. Did someone make a motion on that? Sorry. Just for accepting them too for
Yeah.
correspondence?
I put your name on it.
Okay. So in camera session.
Thank you, at 11:45.